With the preseason finally coming to an end, it's time to kick off the regular season for the Warriors. The Warriors finished 5-0 in the preseason. They looked pretty solid, and I think it's something to get a little bit excited about. But let's step back and preview this year. So, obviously, the Warriors are coming off a pretty disappointing season in 2021, in the 2021 season, really. I mean, they missed the playoffs by a hair. They were in the play in, which is kind of like the basketball version of the wild card, and they were very close. They had a pretty good season, but the big story was Stephen Curry was not getting enough help. And that was a big issue because Stephen Curry was having a MVP caliber season. He was an MVP favorite for a while. Unfortunate he didn't win it, but he was very close. And the Warriors had a pretty good year. Unfortunately, it wasn't good enough, and they weren't able to rise to the occasion in clutch games, in clutch moments as well. Last year, the supporting cast was kind of lackluster. I mean, the Warriors had good players, obviously, like, Draymond was helping out on defense and stuff, but really, besides Curry, there was no other big star. And until we get Klay Thompson back, that may be the case. But I think the Warriors had some good offseason acquisitions. Otto Porter is looking pretty good in the preseason so far. They obviously drafted 2 new rookies, Kuminga and Moody, and hopefully they'll be ready to start and be NBA ready pretty soon. Avery Bradley, and there's some other guys too that the Warriors recently got that are looking pretty good. And I think also Andrew Wiggins, he played really good last year, and I wouldn't go as far as maybe saying he was a star, but he was very good last year in a lot of moments. The Warriors' schedule will kick off against the Lakers in LA, and then they're going to play the Clippers at home, 2 of the LA teams. It's going to be difficult. But after those first 2 games, the schedule does get a lot lighter. They're going to play the Kings, who are obviously, they have one of the longest playoff droughts in sports. They're going to play the Thunder, who are pretty bad. The Grizzlies, they're all right. And then from there, it's actually pretty easy. But yeah, I have high hopes in the Warriors this year, and I think we could finish a top 4 seed in the West, if we're being realistic. I don't know if I'm going to go as far as to saying we're the best team in the West, because first of all, I don't really think that's true yet, because we haven't seen anything yet. And also, we have to be realistic here. The Warriors are coming off a missed playoff year, and saying they're going to be the best team in the West is a long shot. Now, I think the Warriors are going to finish, I'm going to go ahead and say 4th. I'm going to say 4th in the West, and they're going to win 51 games. 51-30 is my kind of ballpark number for their record. I think, you look at last year, it was a shortened year by 10 games, and I think this year they're going to play a lot better. I think Curry is going to get the help he needs, hopefully. I'm crossing my fingers there's no fatal injuries, and Klay Thompson has a smooth, transition back into playing. Because, he's great. And I think if we can get the young guys like Wiseman, Kuminga, and Moody to all play to their best abilities, I think the Warriors have a shot at being a really good team. And I don't even think just this year, I think for years to come, because I think these young talent will kind of fill. I don't think anyone is going to be capable of replacing Curry ever, but I think they're going to be able to fill the shoes adequately. And I think, Jordan Poole is being kind of talked about as the 3rd Splash brother besides Klay and Curry. And I kind of agree, honestly. I mean, Jordan Poole is, he's looked elite right now in the preseason. He has looked elite. And I know the preseason isn't a fair, really thing to judge. But Jordan Poole, he showed a lot of promise last year. And I think his promise is showing to be real. I think it's legitimate. And I think he's a very good player. And I think, the Warriors had issues in the past with being a small ball team. They have 2 centers now, Looney and Wiseman, who are both pretty solid. I mean, Wiseman is obviously young. He's still, working out the kinks and transitioning. But I think the Warriors have a legit shot. The West is obviously very, very tough. You have the Lakers, you have the Clippers, you have the Jazz, you have the Suns, all good teams. And the Nuggets, there's a lot of good teams. But I think the Warriors, they're I'd say up there with those teams. And they did beat a lot of those teams last year. I mean, I don't know if you use that necessarily to compare this year, but I think, the Warriors have a good shot. I like our chances. I think I of my 4 teams I support, I have the most faith in the Warriors. There's a lot of teams that are good, but I think the Warriors are kind of filled with a lot of star power right now, and I think that's something we haven't seen in a couple of years from them. But the Warriors, I'm excited for the year. I'm going to be at the home opener against the Lakers. Sorry, the Clippers. Home opener against the Lakers. The season opener is against the Lakers. The home opener is against the Clippers. And I'm excited. I think Curry, if he can play like to the MVP level last year, because there are doubters. There are people that say, he's not, he's kind of going downhill, and I that's what people said before last year, and he proved everyone wrong. But I think also it's Stephen Curry. He's Stephen Curry, and I think Curry until he retires is going to be a great player. You look at the standings last year again, and the Warriors were kind of neck and neck with the Grizzlies for that 8th and 9th spot, and I think if they want to get up to those, like the level of not having to worry about getting a playoff spot, it's going to be the bench. The bench is huge. Juan Toscano Anderson was big in that last year. So was Jordan Poole. Eric Paschall was last year too. He unfortunately got a lot of injuries, so he didn't really play too much, and he's not even on the team anymore. But I think the only teams I'm really concerned about in the West are the Jazz, Suns, Lakers, and Clippers. I'm not even really concerned about the Nuggets because they have a lot of injuries. And right there, that's 4 teams. I mean, if hypothetically, if they were behind all 4, they would be the 5th seed, and I would be okay with that. But I think we're probably better than at least 1 or 2 of those teams with the record. I think the Warriors have a legit shot. I'm happy about this team. I think I think 51-30 is a fair, or 52-30 is a fair assessment, because I think the Warriors are going to win that many games. So yeah, anyways guys, let me know your thoughts. I'll see you guys later, and yeah, go Warriors.